Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And I'm joined today by Melissa. Melissa, can you please introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you do?
Yes, thank you for having me today. My name is Melissa Perrin. I work at First United Bank. We are headquartered out of Oklahoma, but have locations all over Oklahoma and Texas. About 100 locations, couple of thousand employees, about 16 billion in assets. And for me, my passion is all about our workplace and our culture and our people. Also have do work in our marketing and facilities and communications and stuff as well. But HR and learning and development and culture are a big part of what I do and my passions. And I've been with First United 20 years this month. So it's been a long running passion of mine.
Excellent, a long journey. So tell me a little bit more about how First United handles flexible work, hybrid work, and we'll talk about how that relates to early employee career growth. But first, just tell me a little bit more about the approach of the bank to this question.
So for us, one of our, we have values. We're a very purpose-driven organization centered around different values, and relationships is a big piece of our business. So, community banking, helping folks with their mortgages and those type of things are things that, we feel is a lot of focus on relationships, and we feel like that's what sets us apart in our markets. And so, for us, it feels like we can do relationships best when we're in person. So over the last few years, we have always been completely in person. When we, were met with COVID, we went remote for the most part. And then over the years, we've kind of slowly started coming back in person. And right now, we still have a few that are on a flexible schedule, but we do kind of, some teams follow a 3-2 schedule, which is 3 days in the office and 2 days the option to be remote. We do not force anyone to work remote. We prefer everyone to be in office in person just because, again, we love that opportunity to be together and fellowship and build those relationships and connections. But we do have some teams, depending on, the type of work that they do, that do a 3-2 schedule.
So tell me a little bit more about, I sense a little bit of a reluctance to have remote workers because of the relationship building. So help me understand why you do have some people working some of the time remotely, why you don't have everyone working in the office full time? Like, what's your motivation for the current approach that you have?
Yeah, so it really depends on the type of work that they're doing and kind of that maybe their certain line of work. So for instance, if you take teams like accounting and finance, across kind of our whole footprint, a lot of those positions are done remote. So we have a little bit of a harder time, recruiting or keeping employees in that space because there is such an opportunity for folks to be remote. And so there may be, certain teams that just to support that staffing and stuff, it works best for their culture. Because while we do have a holistic culture here, we also try to help support each team and their needs as well. And then some of our work, because we are all across 2 states, most of that's community banks. Corporately, we have a couple of different, we have our headquarters, but we have another corporate campus as well. And so sometimes there's just like, hey, let's all make sure we're in person together at one of those locations 3 days a week, but the other 2 days we may work at different locations or choose to work remotely because those days we're probably going to be joining virtually anyway, because we're kind of spread apart. So it's just a little extra flexibility that we give to our managers, just to help really do what's best for their teams.
Okay, so it sounds like the crux of the issue is recruitment and retention, that you would have trouble recruiting and retaining people for certain roles. if they did not have that kind of flexibility compared to the current market, in terms
Yes.
of the availability. What
Yeah,
do you
definitely.
find is what do you find is the case for other banks in terms of comparison? Because of course it's about the options that other people have. So where do you benchmark yourself against other banks in that regard?
You know, most for within the banking locations, they're
Hmm.
almost all in person
Mhm.
anyway, because they're helping service customers that are coming inside the locations.
Yeah.
Of course, most banks have online, services as well, but
Mhm.
but their brick and mortars are being serviced by
Mm.
people. So we don't really see a lot of need to, perform to operate a certain way to keep up with
Okay.
that, but compared to our peers. Corporately, in
Yeah.
our regions, most of banks, even on their corporate side, have all came back in person. So
Mhm.
we do not see a lot of pressure there from other
Mm.
peers. And just especially in the Oklahoma markets, most everyone is back in person.
Mm.
There's a little bit more flexibility in our, kind of Dallas markets, Austin
Ah.
markets, but we don't see a lot of pressure from peers.
Okay, good to understand where you're coming from. So tell me a little bit more about how, given that these people are working some of their time remotely, how do you manage that culture building, which is definitely somewhat more challenging in remote settings, especially for more junior staff?
So we do, we have a commitment to our culture as well
Hmm.
as to what that looks like working together. And one of those things is if we are remote, if someone is working remote, that they always have their camera on, their
Okay.
microphone on, that
Hmm.
they're in dress code, and that they're leaned in and participating in the conversation, and the others can
Mm.
feel that. And so definitely have, just some parameters around what working remotely needs to look like
Okay.
from kind of a professionalism standpoint, and just desire
Hmm.
to be really a part of the meetings. And then also we have kind of dedicated certain meetings that we have that we feel are very important to be in person. And
Okay.
we've laid those out for our employees and said, these are not, there's not a virtual option for these meetings.
Mm.
So whether you have some flexibility of working from home
Hmm.
some, or if you happen to be on one of our other corporate campuses, whatever the meeting is and wherever it's located, these certain meetings do need to be in person.
Hmm.
So, just being clear, and I think, having that clarity around what's in person, what has a virtual option.
Mm.
We also, have some parameters around your work from home days not always
Okay.
being on a Monday and a Friday.
Ah.
Those need to be have some spaced out during the week. And also encourage our teams, if you do have virtual or remote options, that you pick days that you're all there together, so that at
Hmm.
least 1 or 2 days a week, the whole team is together to have that time
Mm.
to connect. So, and our employees, we've seen a great response from our employees.
Hmm.
They love to build relationships. They love
Mm.
the people they work with and feeling connected. And we received a lot of feedback that people felt pretty isolated working from home when they had been used to
Mm.
working on a in person with a team. So we've had great feedback from it. And I'm really proud. We just announced that we were recipients of the 2024 Gallup Exceptional Workplace Award. And
Oh,
one of
congrats.
the thank you. One of the questions on that survey that we ask our employees each year is, do I have a best friend at work? And
Hmm.
so just we put a lot of work culturally to help people
Hmm.
feel like they do have a best friend at work. So I think that makes a huge difference as well. And then from an
Mm.
early career standpoint, I'm a huge advocate of being in person to help people, just get to know you, especially if you're just
Hmm.
starting in
Hmm.
your career, to put
Mm.
a face and
Yeah,
a name together, to
sure.
give you exposure, even maybe having lunch in our cafe, or
Hmm.
seeing someone in the hall, or a different maybe employee kind of social events that we have just to really help people to get to know other leaders in the company and other employees. And, I don't know if you've experienced this, but sometimes we have a meeting and it's like after the meeting's over, there continues to linger some,
Sure.
conversation. And so I'm like, that's where a lot of learning really happens.
Mm.
And I think if you were working remotely, early in your career, you would really miss out on some of that
Mm.
opportunity of just getting to know people and getting to experience some of those hallway conversations that there's usually a lot of good nuggets shared.
Mhm.
So I always encourage our young leaders to be here and to be out and about and
Mm.
seeing and learning from others and participating in different trainings and social events and
Mhm.
stuff that we have.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Something didn't notice you didn't mention, and I'm curious if you do it, but you just didn't mention it, is a mentoring program. You said having a best friend at work. So mentoring is a little bit different, of course. So I often, when I talk about look at onboarding and thinking about early career folks, especially in a setting where they're spending some of their time working remotely, like yours are, that a formal mentoring program is very helpful, where you have one person from your own team and one person from outside your team. The person from your own team helping you figure out what your team is doing, all of their team dynamics, what your actual job is, and the person from outside the team helping connect you across the organization. That should be a person who has connections across the organization, is a good person for that, a connector, and helping connect you across organizations to people you need to know and helping you build those relationships and more broadly develop your career across the whole company. So I'm curious if you have anything like a structured formal mentoring program for people who have been there for the first, let's say, for the after the onboarding program ends at 3 months or something, whatever it does for you, and then at the finally when someone's no longer junior, let's say the 5 year mark.
Yeah. So we do have some mentoring in place. So definitely an
Mm.
onboarding process. We have, mentors that are part of their onboarding, and that continues to check in even past
Mhm.
their first 90 days, just to
Good.
continue to check in on them and connect with them and make sure that they're staying engaged. We also have a program that we call our Elevate You, which is a program for it's for recent college graduates that maybe
Mhm.
have interned with us and we saw a lot of high potential in,
Mhm.
or employees that are within our already within our organization that are kind of starting in their career and we see a lot of potential in them and they have a desire to move up and be a future leader in the company. And that program is about a year to 18 months program,
Mm.
and they are in person and they have different rotations that they rotate throughout our entire company to learn all of the different
Mm.
pieces of what we do here to really help kind of advance them
Mhm.
in their learnings of how we operate and how we work together. And so there's a really awesome mentorship that happens through that. And we put them through lots of just training and development and things, not only about the job itself, but also just their personality and what,
Mhm.
their purpose and their gifts and things to help them really find their future home in a leadership role here at First United. So have some great programs like that as well.
Mhm.
But we also have programs that are not necessarily partnering just with a mentor,
Mhm.
but that help keep people engaged in like, for instance, the culture. We have what we call Love and Impact Councils. And so they're across our
Mm.
whole footprint and they're helping do different either social events or
Oh.
celebrating maybe employees' birthdays and things,
Mhm.
their work anniversaries, just to help keep them engaged in our culture and feel a part of the collective, system. And so lots of things like that that we have across our footprint that really help people feel a part of something bigger and feel connected to what it is that we're doing.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like you're doing a lot of great work. And as we finish up our conversation, is there anything else you want to share about something that you're developing in the future, what you envision as the future of this intersection between flexible hybrid work and culture building?
You know, Not necessarily specifically with maybe the flexible work, but I would say culturally, something that we're seeing a great response to is work that we're doing with our employees to really help them find no connection necessarily to the company's purpose and values and stuff, but we've been really dedicated to helping each of our employees literally draft and craft their purpose statement, their values, taking different assessments to find their gifts and their strengths and help them create visions for their future over the next 5-10 years. And does that fit in with our company? If it doesn't, we try to help them find where it does fit, but we hope that it fits in with our company. And that's really brought to life a passion for our employees to just find their sweet spot inside of our organization. And we've had some great testimonies come from just that work of really helping them connect what it is they naturally love to do with opportunities that we have here. And that benefits everyone. And so I think that type of work, along with, we've been doing some key purpose indicators work. So surveying our employees and a sampling of customers and a sampling of our community and our footprint where we're at to ask them, how are we doing? How are we delivering on our purpose and what we've said we want to do in our communities? And so that's been great work as well. I think as a bank and business in general, we naturally look at the numbers of performance, but to couple that with your purpose and executing on what you've said you're here to do as a business, it's just really insightful, and I think a great tool for leaders to consider to couple with their performance. And all of that work ties back to people wanting to be here and wanting to be engaged and wanting to propel what it is that we're doing collectively. So I don't think it's one thing that encourages our employees. It's all of these little things that come together and just make it a great place to be.
It sounds like a great place to be. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise,
Thank
Melissa.
you.
And thank you to the audience for checking out another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe whenever you check out the show and leave a review. It helps others discover the show, and it helps us improve the show.